Thank you, Can Corla. And thank you, Minister Harris and Minister Collins. My question relates to mental health and wellbeing, and that's already been very well interrogated by Deputy Brendan Smith and Deputy Pringle. So rather than go over the same ground again, Minister, can I just emphasise you spoke of additional places, 2,700 and 800. The services are already overstretched, under-resourced. Are you confident that the new monies that you are putting in will help to deal with this problem?
The Deputy, and for not wishing to rerun the debate we've had, but just to say to her, because I know the mental health issue is a very serious and important one, that the division of that funding, there is 121,000 for IT Sligo and 164,000 for GMIT, and I'll provide her with the full breakdown of the funding by institution. I want to point out that the additional places that we have announced in recent days will come with additional resources. So obviously we will be providing, we're not asking the institutions to do this for free, I don't say that in a flippant way. We will obviously fund and resource them to provide those places. Roughly speaking, the 1,250 extra places comes at a cost of around €12 million in a full year from my memory. And there will obviously be an incremental cost of that from the additional 800 places that I am announcing this morning. But the point that the Deputy highlights is a very fair one, because all of this is an issue of balance. We're asking our universities, we're asking everybody to live in a very different way, to work in a very different way. We're asking them to make sure they can keep their social distance, to do blended learning. And obviously when you increase the number of people going in, that does make that challenge all the harder. In fairness to the higher education institutions, they've come up with these figures. So we haven't said, this is us in Dublin telling you what you've provided. We've asked them, because of the exceptional year and the extraordinary year, when you look at your full resources and your full campus, can you safely provide any more places? And the latest figure of 800 is what they can do. But let me be truthful with this House and truthful with students and their parents around the country. There won't be capacity to do more beyond the announcement of this morning and the announcement of last week in that regard. So that's an honest evaluation of where we're at.
Thank you, Minister. And indeed, I've spoken to Sligo IT, and the 120,000 will be most welcome and useful, and that will be mainly used for mental health services, but other areas as well, Minister, like access, etc. And I suppose, and I hear what you're saying, but the services were already overstretched. So with more students coming in, and with the particularly difficult year that it has been for students, I do think we need to look seriously, perhaps in the budget or later, at increasing resources for mental health services. Another point I want to raise with you, which is directly related to mental health and well-being, is the issue of gender-based violence in third-level colleges. I know it's close to your heart. It certainly contributes significantly to issues of mental well-being and mental ill health at third level, with a recent survey, as we know, showing that over 6,000 students, mostly female, reported rape during their time in college. I mean, that's absolutely shocking, with 10% of males and 28% of non-binary students having the same experiences. So my question to you, Minister, is how are you looking at this area, specifically in the context of mental health?
Yeah, thanks very much for raising this issue, Deputy Harkin, because we can talk all about mental health in a general sense, and it's important we do. But what's going on in relation to sexual harassment and sexual violence in our institutions needs to be called out. It needs to be called out by all of us, and it's an issue for students, but it's also, as we've seen, an issue for staff. What I intend to do about it is attach a level of priority and focus to it that perhaps hasn't always been there in the past. My predecessor, Mary Mitchell-O'Connor, started some really good work in relation to this. I want to build on that. I have a number of ministerial vacancies on the governing authorities, and I think you're going to see as soon as today the type of people that I'm going to start appointing to those governing authorities, sending a very clear message to anybody in any leadership position that my representatives, the people of Ireland who sit on those governing authorities, will be there to keep an eye on these issues and to ask questions in that regard. We also don't need to do more. We can have our general frameworks, and they're important, but it's how they're implemented in the institutions. So I've written to every university president saying that they need an action plan on how they intend to tackle this in their institution within 6 months, and that the HEA will oversee the implementation of this. So this is a big issue. It's not confined to third level, but it is a challenge here, and we need to fix it.
Thank you, Minister. Just everybody's been very cooperative, and if we continue to be cooperative, more people will get in with their questions. So, Deputy Harkin.
Thank you. I'll be briefer this time because I did run over it slightly, Corla. As you said, Minister, you're going to call this out, and we've heard recent media reports. It's not just in the student body, it's as far as lecturers, professors concerned, etc. It's a problem right across. Now, calling it out is fine, and I hear what you're saying about governing bodies. That will matter. But equally, we know that we need resources and programmes in place to help those who have been the victim of gender-based violence, and also to try to prevent any incidences of this type of violence on our third-level campuses. So again, Minister, I would just point out to you the absolute importance of looking at resources specifically for this.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Coming, and there's a reason why I've asked a number of actions to be taken by the group chaired by the National Women's Council of Ireland in advance of planning for the budgetary year ahead. But I also want to do more things. We have a lot of other forms of funding that go into higher education institutions, from research agencies, Science Foundation Ireland, the Research Council. We need to make sure that they're aware if there's an allegation of wrongdoing on a course being funded by them. Let's be honest, right? We need to make sure that there's a linkage between people getting on top of this issue and funding levels. And that's why I want the HEA to have an oversight role. I want things not done in-house, I want things published in terms of action plan, metrics that can be measured by the HEA. We're going to bring legislation into this House, a general scheme later this year that will look at the whole governance of this sector. And I hope we can all work our way through that together in terms of how do we increase the oversight levels that we have to have. I don't think I've lived under a rock all my life, but the prevalence of this is something that is causing me significant concern. But I don't think it's beyond us to get on top of this and bring about the cultural change that we need. And I accept that that will need resources.
Thank you very much.